What happens when a close ally dares to question a major U.S. weapons purchase? Canada found out quickly. When Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a review of Canada's plan to buy 88 F-35 fighter jets from Lockheed Martin, the response from Washington wasn't subtle. It didn't come as quiet diplomacy or technical discussion. It came as a warning. U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra publicly stated that if Canada walked away from the F-35 deal, future trade agreements with the United States could be off the table. There was no polite framing, no careful language between neighbors who share the longest undefended border on Earth. Many Canadians saw it for what it looked like: pressure bordering on coercion.
At the same time, a very different offer landed in Ottawa. Sweden's royal couple arrived alongside senior executives from Saab, the company behind the Gripen E fighter. They weren't just offering jets, they proposed full technology transfer, domestic production facilities in Canada, and up to 10,000 high-skilled jobs. Saab's pitch was about turning Canada into a manufacturer, not a lifetime customer. Gripens could be built on Canadian soil and even exported to partners like Ukraine, which has already shown interest in acquiring more than 100 aircraft.
The contrast was sharp. One option locks Canada into permanent dependence. The other offers industrial capacity, control, and long-term autonomy. Defense analysts point out that Sweden's approach delivers something missing from the American proposal: real technological independence. To understand why that matters, you have to look beyond the glossy marketing around the F-35 and examine its record. The first issue is readiness. Senior U.S. lawmakers, including Senator Roger Wicker, have acknowledged that large portions of the F-35 fleet are grounded at any given time. These aren't rumors from critics abroad, they're admissions from inside the U.S. system. The Government Accountability Office has also reported that maintenance and sustainment costs have exceeded original estimates by more than $6 billion, with delivery schedules slipping by years. When countries spend tens of billions on fighter jets, reliability isn't optional. The second issue is deeper: sovereignty. The United States controls every critical software system in the F-35. Canada would not have the authority to independently upgrade, modify, or fully maintain its own aircraft. Software updates, spare parts, and even diagnostics run through ALIS, a logistics system owned and operated by the U.S. If access is delayed or restricted for political reasons, Canada's fleet could be sidelined without a single missile being fired. Then there's flexibility. U.S. officials argue Canada can't realistically operate more than one fighter type. History says otherwise. The Royal Canadian Air Force has previously managed multiple platforms without collapsing under the complexity. The Gripen already operates within NATO systems and regularly participates in joint exercises. The push for uniformity isn't about feasibility, it's about dependency. As the debate heated up, retired military figures weighed in. Former Chief of the Defense Staff General Tom Lawson warned against running mixed fleets. On the surface, the argument sounded practical. Less often mentioned was the fact that Lawson spent 6 years consulting for Lockheed Martin. The relationship wasn't hidden, but it raised obvious questions about impartiality. More surprising was a shift from Lieutenant General André Deschamps, once a strong supporter of the F-35 and an early advocate of Canada's involvement. He has since taken part in discussions exploring alternatives, including mixed fleet models. That change reflects a growing recognition of a basic reality. The U.S. controls the F-35 completely. Canada cannot operate the aircraft without ongoing American approval. That concern isn't theoretical. Denmark learned this the hard way. In early 2024, Danish lawmakers discovered that F-35 components had been transferred from Denmark to Israel with U.S. approval, without Denmark's consent or prior notice. The move conflicted with Denmark's own foreign policy stance, yet Copenhagen had no practical way to stop it. Former Danish Defense Minister Rasmus Charlov later admitted they thought they were buying jets, but realized they were effectively leasing them while Washington held the keys. This is how the F-35 system works. ALIS allows the United States to monitor flight data, maintenance records, and operational details of every jet worldwide. European analysts describe this as conditional sovereignty. You may own the aircraft on paper, but not the authority to fully use it. Canada now faces the same choice. Is it willing to accept that vulnerability, or does it want genuine control? Saab's proposal answers that question directly. The Gripen plan centers on building an independent defense manufacturing base inside Canada, with full assembly, local maintenance, and complete access to source code. Canada could upgrade, modify, and sustain the aircraft without asking permission. There's no centralized foreign system monitoring every action, no risk of politically motivated parts embargoes. This philosophy comes from Sweden's own history. During the Cold War, Sweden learned that political independence depends on technological independence. The Gripen was designed with that lesson in mind. European defense experts call it sovereign sustainment, the ability to keep military assets operational without external approval. Operationally, the Gripen also fits Canada's reality. Both countries operate in Arctic and subarctic conditions. The Gripen is built to function from short runways, highways, and remote locations. Its reinforced landing gear and high air intake reduce the risk of debris damage. The F-35, by contrast, was designed around large bases and aircraft carriers. Cost is another uncomfortable factor. Lockheed Martin often cites a unit price of around $85 million per F-35. That number ignores lifetime expenses. Canada's Auditor General, Karen Hogan, estimates that operating 88 F-35s over 30 years could cost roughly 50 billion Canadian, not including future price increases or restricted upgrade access. Flight hour costs range from $33,000 to nearly $50,000. The Gripen E operates at roughly $8,000 to $12,000 per flight hour based on NATO data. More importantly, Gripen spending stays inside Canada, supporting factories, training programs, and long-term industrial capacity. F-35 spending largely flows south to U.S. contractors. Hogan's audit also flagged hidden costs tied to the F-35 program, including U.S.-mandated hangar redesigns at Cold Lake and Baggetville, adding hundreds of millions and pushing timelines toward 2031. Infrastructure upgrades and weapons integration add at least another $5.5 billion. New squadron facilities are already years behind schedule. The report also notes an ongoing shortage of qualified pilots, an issue identified back in 2018 that still hasn't been resolved. So the real question is simple. Is Canada buying fighter jets or paying rent on a system it doesn't control? When Ambassador Hoekstra warned of economic consequences, he wasn't protecting shared security. He was protecting corporate interests. A truly superior product doesn't need threats to sell itself. Canada now stands at a crossroads. One path accepts pressure and bets that relations with Washington remain stable for decades. The other path carries risk but offers clarity, domestic capability, industrial growth, and real sovereignty. Prime Minister Mark Carney has said his duty is to choose what's best for Canada, not what's easiest for Washington or most profitable for Lockheed Martin. The money exists. The real test is resolve, because if a country can't independently decide how to defend its own airspace, sovereignty becomes an empty word. This analysis relies on publicly available information and does not reflect classified material or official government positions. Names and examples are used solely to explain political and economic dynamics.